In this video, we are breaking down the arrangement of The Fix by the Funk Cartel. So you can take the principles and techniques that these producers are using and use them in your own tracks to make bangers that go off on the dance floor. Now, my favorite thing about this track is how the simple lyrics themselves, "I Need a Fix," completely explains arrangement psychology. And arrangement psychology, from the point of view of the listener, is exactly what these breakdowns are all about. Now, just in case you haven't heard this track before, let me just play a little piece of it right over here. Here we go.
I need a fix.
And then when the synth comes in,
I need a fix.
now, arrangement is the story of the track, and the track is driven by two main characters. You've got the hooks, so things like vocal sound design that make your track catchy and memorable, and you've got the groove, the drums and the bass that get people dancing. So what we're going to do is we're going to map out how the hooks and groove develop over time in this track to set up and create the fix, just like the title. Now, you can download the MIDI map we're going to create right here. Link is in the description, so let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, we have yet another H22 formula perfectly executed. And H22 formula is just my name for these kind of standard tech house format where you've got your intro through here. You've got your bass drop where you introduce the bass line. You've got the first break, typically where you introduce like the main hook. And then you've got your hook drop, the first big drop, or hook drop as I like to call it, because you're putting the hooks together with the groove. And then you separate those two, the hooks and the groove, in some way, usually by taking away the groove and kind of messing around with the hooks. Build a little bit of tension. And why are you building tension? Because you're promising, hey, listener, dude, we're going to go back to the drop, the thing that you liked over here. You remember that? Yeah, we're going to go back to it. And so then we get hook drop 2, and we can elevate it in different ways to make it more exciting. Right? Not reinventing the wheel, but just elevating the experience a little bit. And then, well, in this case, we have a very long outro, but then we just have the outro. So intro, bass drop, break 1, hook drop 1, main break and build, hook drop 2, outro. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk through exactly what's happening in this track according to the H22 formula. And, look at that story that's being told like I mentioned before. So let's get started. We'll create the MIDI map. You can download this. Link will be in the description. We're also going to make that MIDI map that you can download. I think I mentioned again. Let's go. All right, so here we got the beat. One kind of cool thing that we can mention about the beat is just this nice kind of mid-range texture in there. And it already is just kind of generally textural, like the shakers, the tops. Like there's a lot of texture in there that's really cool. Kind of reminds me of Michael Beebe's I Got the Fire. All right, a little bit of a tops lift. Now, what we're doing is we're tracking the hooks and groove stories. So when the groove is just the drums and the bass, like I said. So if we get a top end lift, let's just map it, like it might be a little bit silly because that probably is going to be playing throughout. So I'm just going to do tops lift. And you can hear just a little bit of a shaker come in. Both right and left side. Right is a little bit more tambourine-y, a little bit higher frequencies. Left is a little bit like poppier, a little bit more percussion-y. All right, but before we get to this, let's just check off to see what we actually even need to do in the intro. Well, intros and outros are for DJs, not producers. Not really a place to get creative. Obviously, you can do whatever you want, but if you are thinking about other stakeholders of your music, for example, people listening to your music or DJs playing your music or labels signing your music, it's good to kind of operate in the overlap between what works for you and what works for them. And so if you're making music for DJs, then just don't get in their way of mixing into your track. And there you go. It's that simple. So keeping it real simple for DJs, and that's what the intro is all about, is just that mix in. So here we're getting some beats. We can hear that. Intro hook tease, which is about what we're coming up into in the intro. But basically, this is just where you kind of tease a hook in the track. This is a cool example because it's not like the main hook of the track. It's just like this kind of hooky element that's kind of used in the track. So we'll see that. Other things to do in the intro that you could do is like a unique kind of thing. That's very broad and vague, but sometimes you'll get these interesting things going on in the intro that don't really prevent the DJ from mixing in, but they just also kind of serve as an identifier for the track. A section, B section, we don't have that here, and a little bit of motif, we don't have that. All these asterisks right here, hard word to say, are kind of like optional things. But the intro hook tease, let's see what he got right here. There we go. And so just that little breakbeat, that comes up, right? So it's a little bit of foreshadowing. That's what you can think of the tease, right? That's what tease means. It's like a simpler articulation of the idea of foreshadowing. But basically, so there we get that little breakbeat there. And then what we could do is just move into the bass drop here. And we'll also just kind of map out the map here. So I'll do map. And so we'll just go like this, and this will just be intro. And so we just do intro, color that brown, and then simultaneously we'll also just do break beat. And I'll just kind of color this orange for drums, typically what I color drums. Although the beat here is red because it has the kick in it. I like to color the kick red. Doesn't matter. So here we go. Here we have, this is going to be coming into the bass drop here, where that bass line comes in. And then let's just create a new track here for the bass. And we're just kind of mapping out. So this is a development in the groove because we are adding the bass line. So let's come back over here. So the bass drop is where we introduce the bass line, right? So here's no bass line, DJ mixing. Here's a bass line. Now, some DJs would still be mixing in here. Some just mix into here. Who knows? But the point is, we only really want to just add the bass line in the beginning. We want to teach people how to move, groove, and dance to the track before you start throwing hooks on top. Otherwise, it's just they're going to be overwhelmed with the amount of things they have to process. And then, so when we throw the hooks on top, that's what we do over here in the hook drop. Right, so here we're introducing the groove, both for the listener and for the DJ, right? And then over here is when we kind of bring those two together, the hooks on top of the groove. So things like vocal sound design over the drums and the bass. All right. And so, but one thing we can do is we can start to tease the hooks, especially as we move towards the break right here. So let's see what's being done here. So definitely we have the bass line here, but do we have like an A section, B section? We'll see. You can kind of already see there's some kind of higher level structure there. And then we can kind of see what the AB is doing. And then B transition. I'm pretty sure he's doing this in here, which is cool because I get to show you that. But let's go ahead and just map out what's going on in the bass drop here when the bass line comes in. So there we go. So here we kind of have this bass sub, bass mid, and this is kind of cool. So we can just kind of map out what's going on because it's worth mapping this out. So let's see here. How long have I been going for? So 7 minutes. Okay. So the sub part. Doom, doom, doom. So we could just kind of like map out this in C. I'm not going to even bother what the key is, but although I think they're just walking around like a minor chord. Sounds like they're just walking down G minor. So I'll map that out. So are we on 16ths or 18ths? Or not 18ths, 8ths. Doom 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 doom. Is that right? Sorry. Let's see. So we need to go A flat. Yeah, that's right. B flat tactically. Doom 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 doom. There we go. Okay, cool. And then what we could do is, so there's the sub, and then you can hear that mid bass coming up. And so the mid bass is basically just kind of playing these notes right there. So you can hear that little layer on there. Any drum lift? No drum lift, but you can hear these textures in the back. There's a new texture there. It almost sounds like a jungle or like a crowd. Not there, but here it is. Like there's like a bird in the background or something. Okay, and there we go. So now we get a clean A-B. This is going to be just like bass drop, simple mid bass, we can say. And this is going to be like, we could just say complex mid bass, right? Or full mid bass, doesn't matter. Like the thing that defines the A section for the bass drop here in the B section is the way the mid bass is being presented. So here's just real simple on the sub bass, and then we get the full mid bass playing along right there. So, but here we're moving into 16th notes actually. So we should actually do this, although I probably could go like this and then make that a little bit faster. There we go. That's cool. And then, so let's do one more thing here, which is take these guys and just barely shorten them. That way you can see the 16th notes in the MIDI there. Awesome. So there we go. And that is like a big, important change. Let's color this a different color. Let's color this pink. That way we know. Those are the 16ths. So that's a big deal right there. That's really cool. All right. So coming over here, bass line, A section, B section, immediately yes. A section groove, sure. We'll do this like simple mid bass. And the B section would be complex mid bass. And then we're going to get a transition too. Did I spell that right? Whatever. Transition. Sure. And then let's keep on going here. Okay, cool. So we're getting a transition right there. So a transition is, we're just going to Vox transition. And this is going to be pulling us towards the first break in a way. And so this is just going to be, I need, and this is just going to be a rep, kind of like masked with delay. Kind of cool. But no development in the drums here. We're just getting a sound that comes in that starts creeping up that is teasing. Again, remember what we said over here. But we can start to tease the hooks leading into the break. And so the bass is absolutely a hook in this track. It reminds me of a couple tracks. It reminds me of OK by Shiba-san, and then also Fisher, Stop It, or however it goes. But both of those are downward, down bass lines. They're a melody that move down and then they just kind of level out. I actually have a video on this style of like directional bass lines somewhere on YouTube. But if you type in like directional bass lines, I'm probably the only video that's ever going to come up for something like that. but anyway, check that out. All right, so I'm also just going to do a little bit of an edit map. So there we go. And then we got the break beat back, I think, again. Nah, that comes in the break there. All right, but we can see the development right here. So we have A section, B section, simple sub, and then here we get that kind of more 16th mid-bass pattern. And this sub also follows that, by the way, just as a heads up. This is just playing 8th notes over here, but the sub also picks up with the 16th notes. Then we're getting that transition, that pull into the bass line. So I'm sorry, into the break. So right away, we've basically been introduced to most of the hooks. The vocal's still a little bit pulled back, so we're just getting a really brief kind of tease, a partial tease of what the hook is. But already we've gotten the breakbeat, we've gotten the vocal, and we've gotten that kind of 16th note downward bass line. And those are primarily the hooks. The only thing that builds off of that is going to be like two types of synths that kind of play that bass line. And that's really it. And then again, the whole track is the story of those elements. And so we can kind of see how things ebb and flow through the introduction of different sounds, different groove and hook sounds to just make the story interesting over time. So let's come back over to the bass. We have the A section, B section. We also have that B transition, which is going to be the I need rep with delay. And that just kind of goes up. Don't have a corresponding drum lift. This is where if we come into the bass drop, we're going to get a lift in the drums. We don't have that. Punk's Edis ear candy. Don't need to go into that right now. No entry either. But the main boxes right here that tell a story and drive the narrative forward, you could say, are being checked off. So awesome. Let's now go into the break. All right. So this is going to be break 1. Cool. So what do we do in the break? What's the point of the break? Break is where we take the groove away in some way and introduce the hooks. The idea is similar to the bass drop. In the bass drop, we only introduce the bass. And we can kind of see that here. It's just drums and bass with a little bit of pull from the vocal. But we only introduce the bass and hold back on the hooks. In break 1, we flip this. We hold back on the groove and introduce the hooks. So first thing to do is give them a break. This is pulling back on the groove. So usually through a high pass or removing a kick or a bass. Let's see what happens here. So you can hear that the bass continues, but it is just low pass. I'm just going to use this one for now, the sub, because I'm not hearing the, this is actually going to be HP, because I'm not hearing the mid bass at all right there. And then here we have the break beat, so that's coming in. So, okay, so we're giving them a break because there's no more low end. There's no kick, there's no bass. So we're giving them a break. Keep the groove alive in some way. So the bass is still going. Keeping the groove alive, right? And so this is basically going to be bass is still going with high pass, also break beat, which is some kind of groove, some kind of rhythm, something that doesn't stop them dead in their tracks from dancing. They're still kind of shuffling. Give them a break, high pass on bass. All right, there we go. So what else? Okay, cool. So now we're going to get the synth. You can hear that creeping in. So this is going to be synth layer. So we'll just go ahead and color this. All right. One thing to hear is that you can hear the reverb, the atmosphere that is on the breakbeat. So Atmos on here. Also, you can hear the reverb on this as well. I'm just going to put Atmos as well. And so one of the things we can do in the break is create a sense of atmosphere or space where it just feels like it opens up. So for example, if we play right here, or maybe back here is a little better example, that's pretty dry and in your face. Now, those background textures do create a little bit of an atmosphere, but as soon as we go into the break, you can feel the mix open up in the sense of atmosphere, the sense of space, a new sense of space. And what that does is that moves the entire mix back so that when we get back into the drop, it's dry. So there's a depth dimension here going on where we move backwards in the depth dimension, so front to back of the mix. We move backwards in the depth dimension in the breaks. We take a step back, things open up, and in the drop, we move forward to more dry, and it's more aggressive and in your face. And so you can immediately feel that. All right, so there you go. And so there we go. We can check that off too. Let's keep on going. So another thing we want to do is we want to introduce the main thing. Now, we kind of already did in this track. I would say the main thing is kind of two. There's a main thing in the groove. There's a main thing in the hooks. The main thing in the groove is the bass line. The main thing in the hooks is the vocal. And then there's kind of layers from synths that kind of just emphasize that main thing in the bass line. But so is he introducing the main thing? Yes, because we already had the bass line. That's going to continue, but it's going to be emphasized or piled on by other synths just to reinforce that rhythm, that melody. And then we're also going to get the vocal in here. So let's play that. All right, cool. So there we go. And we're just going to create a new vocal track here for, I'm just going to call it Vox title, because this is it.
I need a fix.
There we go.
I need a fix.
So here we can have some effects. I'm going to do down because this is a kind of a down effect. Just go like that. Is there anything over here? Nah, it just goes right in.
I need a fix.
So you can hear this synth is opening as well. And awesome. Wait, here we go. Opens. Actually, we should probably just put this MIDI on here like this. And then I'm just going to copy this here, paste that. There we go. And awesome. So cool. Because that's the same thing. Okay, so then that goes away. We're also going to get these kind of laser ups. So we'll do laser up. Just kind of some bubbles.
I need a fix.
Okay, let's go back over here too. So here in break 1, you can basically break every section down into an A and a B. So break 1A is going to be just like synth comes up. Break 1B is always going to be the kind of build. And so let's see what we need to do over there. So did we introduce the main thing? Yes, because we heard the hook. Build tension. So once you give them a break, once you keep the groove alive, you keep the rhythm going, people are shuffling, you introduce the main thing in that moment. So that's back over here. So the synth and giving a little bit of vocal right there. So this is a pretty subtle, pulled back, understated track. But the strength comes from that hook pattern and just a very simple vocal. And the funny thing is, like, the vocal is almost, man, you could say it's almost meta in a way because the vocal is the hook. Like, you're just waiting for that vocal. So when that vocal finally comes, it's like it's fulfilling on its own lyrics, which is like, I need a fix. Ooh, finally I get that vocal. You know, I mean, that's a little bit, maybe a bit of a stretch, but at the same time, slightly accurate. So, but once we give them a break, keep the groove alive, and then introduce the hooks, then we can build tension. So here we are, we're building tension towards the first drop, where we can finally put the hooks that we have here in the break together with the groove that we have from the bass drop. So how do they build tension? That's the question. So obviously the synth is opening up. That creates a lot of tension. That would be what I would call kind of a combination of rise and grow, because rise, you're increasing the cutoff on the frequency. Cutoff, what did I just say? You're increasing the cutoff, you're raising that up. So that is going up in the frequency spectrum. That's what rise is, just like a tonal riser or a white riser is going up in the frequency spectrum. Grow is like reverb and stuff. So roll would be like snare roll, kick roll, crash roll, usually a snare roll. Rep is some kind of repetition. I think there's a vocal in here. Let's see. I'm pretty sure this is just a rep on I. Like, I need a fix.
I need a fix.
Boom. All right, very cool. And so there we go. So is he building tension? Are they building tension? Absolutely. Pipo or momentum transition into HD1. So what this is basically is like, how do we get from the break into the drop? That's it, right? What's the border? How do we get from here to there? And so they're using a Pipo transition. So Pipo stands for pattern, PIPO, pattern interrupt, pay off. Pattern interrupt, pay off. And so here we have this building. We're building tension, building tension, building tension. That is the pattern. It's a tension building pattern. And then that gets interrupted. And then we deliver a payoff. And then we explode into the drop. So that's what's going on here. Although the borders are a little bit blurry, which is kind of cool. So we don't have a very stark interruption, right? It's not like a what's the right word? It's not a pattern interrupt that's abrupt, right? It's not an abrupt pattern interrupt. That kind of rhymes. It's the borders are blurred a little bit with delay and stuff. So check it. Hear that with that little clap fill that kind of comes up. So let's come over here. So I will do clap fill. Ba 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 ba.
I need a fix.
All right, so that's kind of where it happens, right? We had this building, so there's somewhere over here it just starts to kind of break apart, and then we just get this empty space, and then we get hit with the payoff. I need a fix, and then we explode into the drop. So they are using the pipo into HT1, no entry, and now we're into hook drop. So let's come over to the hook drop and see what's going on here. So let's go A section, B section, and because that's what we want. So hook drop 1A, and we'll do hook drop 1B because that's going to be what's going on here. Another really good track that I just broke down that it has a really solid, not just A section, B section, but HT2 formula is the one that came out previous to this because I forgot the name of it. But check that one out. Oh, it's Ice in My Eyes. Yeah, super solid HT2 as well.
I need a fix.
All right, so finally, what we get is a lift in the drums. I've been waiting for something here. So we have a hat lift. So if you listen right here, right, you can hear that hat lift, that brighter hat, that more aggressive kind of hat. And again, arrangement is just the development of the hooks and groove over time. This is a development in the groove, and this is going to be a checkbox right here. So when we're on hook drop 1, let me just point this out really quick. So full development on the drums, we're going to check that off. In other words, present the full groove, the full drums, the full bass, and that is going to be relative to what came before it. So right here, and then as soon as you get into hook drop 1, we get the full development, right? Now we're in the story. That's kind of what the signal is there. Now we're in it. We're in it for real, you know? And so let's kind of check this and see what else is going on.
I need a fix. I need a fix.
Cool. So he keeps on using, or they keep on using this. I need rep. So I'm going to do this. And then that goes away. So that's just some little excitement at the beginning. You know, typically when you do things at the beginning, you can consider it an entry. I wouldn't really consider that an entry. That's just kind of a creative thing that pulls you into this moment that happens at the halfway point. So, okay, but let's back up. Let's go to the hook drop. Hook drop 1. What do we need to do in here? This is where the story really begins, right? We've introduced the groove character back in the bass drop. We introduced the hook character in break 1. Now in hook drop 1, we bring the hooks and groove together for the first time. This is what people want. People want hooks over groove. And so I'm going to come over here, highlight this like usual, and we'll just go like this. This is the most important thing, right? Your entire track boils down to what hook do you have and what is your groove? Do you have a groove that can make people dance? Do you have a hook that people care about? Do you have a big hook? Do you have a big groove? And then the HT2 formula, this cheat sheet right here, walks you through how to take those two elements and turn it into a simple story, because that's what you want. You want a big hook, big groove, simple story. Big hook, big groove, simple story. And that's what we're getting in this track. And so finally, this is where those two finally come together, which is what people want, what the listener wants. All right, let's skip over this. Let's just go into the A section, B section. Here we go.
I need a fix.
So that's kind of creeping up again with the low pass up. And so here we get this vocal again that I need to fix.
I need a fix. I need a fix.
And so we'll just do a little bit of an edit map too. An edit is just like where you take away the low end in some way. You just kind of prepare the listener for a change. Also, it allows you to kind of reset things. But what is this right here? Wow, look at that S. Oh, I guess it's not an S. Okay, it's just like double kicks and stuff, but it looks like an S. Okay, so over here.
I need a fix.
So a little bit of an edit right there with that kind of double kick stuff.
I need a fix.
Kind of cool.
I need a fix.
And there we go. And now we get that synth. So one of the ways that you can think about a break is that a break just kind of sets up what's to come down the line. So we've got two things, right, that were previewed or foreshadowed. One is going to be the vocal right here, this guy.
I need a fix.
Another thing is going to be the synth that sounds that come down later. Now, this synth is slightly different than the one that's playing right here. This is a little bit more of like a kind of warmer pluck, you know, so this would be synth, warm pluck. And then the other one is we kind of have like a synth aggro saw, we can say. So we get a little contrast even within these synths, which is really cool. So here we have the this new synth come in that's just playing the bass line. I should actually, again, just keep taking the MIDI just so you can see and reinforce the idea that, you know, everything just comes from the main hook. It's just this bass line. It's just, they come up with that bass line, they're like, holy shit, that is sick. And then everything just kind of reinforces that. And then here we have the, let's see what happens with the vocal over here. But that's what we do is in the A section, we just have basically a groove plus, we'll just start with groove. And then in the B section, we have synth layer. An ideal scenario, when you have A section, B section, you're able to boil it down to one single word. What is the focus for the listener through that section? You can have peripheral things going on, but what is the thing, right? You want to make it really simple. And then so here we get, I'm going to color this black and white just to really highlight the contrast. So when we get into the B section here, what happens?
I need a fix.
Okay, cool. I just want to see if these were still going, and they are. We'll just see if the hat's still there. Okay, so drums stay constant through the A section, B section. There's no kind of elevation in the drums. What about the synth here? See, again, this is growing a little bit too. So this is growing over time as just kind of a way to keep it evolving, but interesting. Ooh, one thing I didn't notice, and sometimes I need to, like, I really want to stay high level in arrangement breakdowns. But one thing that I want to point out is that in this guy right here, he's now playing 16ths down on the bottom. So check this out. Super cool. So I'm going to take this and just bring these guys down just a little bit like that, and then we'll move them over. And so that's just kind of picks up the rhythm too. Just makes things feel a little bit faster, but I like that. That's a pretty subtle, but not subtle, variation on what came before it. And it's just a further development on the rhythm or motif of the bass itself. So here, we started with just 8th notes. Then it got picked up on 16th notes in the first half. So right here is what I mean by first half. And then we're still on 8th notes. But then a further development on the rhythm itself being played by a different instrument now, which is the synth, now breaking that second half down into 16ths. That's pretty cool. That's an interesting kind of rhythmic development there. Keeping it simple, right? The whole interest there comes from the movement. Well, number one, that sound coming in, and number two, the movement on the cutoff of that sound. That's it, you know. It's so simple. It goes back to the track I just broke down, which is, I just said it, and I'm gonna forget the name of it again. What was it? It was Ice in My Eyes. You don't have to rely on a lot of like micro production. You know, like producers might want to fill this with like, you know, I don't know, all these little stabs and stuff. But if your hook is like works on its own, it holds enough kind of macro interest. You don't need to rely on lower level arrangement details, you know? Now, how do you know? That's a good question. experience a little bit, yes, but also just allowing yourself to just step back and remember that you've listened to music for decades probably. And like you have the judgment inside of you. It's just sometimes people are a little bit scared. But like if you just kind of like, let's say you have your drums and bass, right? And you're coming up with the synth line. And then let's say I'm going to try to make this thing as interesting as possible without having to feel the need to just stuff this section like a Thanksgiving turkey, right? So what you do is you just go like maybe you macro maybe you just pretend we have a synth here and we macro a cutoff or something, and you just start moving this cutoff around in a way that you think is interesting. And then what you do is the automation is there, so you get up away from your studio chair, you go to the back of the room, you press play, and you just listen. Like, does the automation that you just put in there create a level of interest that allows you to listen through that section without feeling the need for a bunch of different things? And one thing you could do is add a little bit of a narrative logic to it, so that here is you're kind of going up, you're kind of going down over here, but then through the last part, you start to go up slower. And then you start to open up even more. All right. And so you're starting to signal that you're going to a different section by increasing the intensity as you get closer to the end of the section. So you could even have this very subtle automation story of let's open it up. Let's start to close it down. Let's start to open it up, but slower this time. And then we're going to open it up much more intense. That little tiny story, open, close, open, slow, open, way up, that in and of itself would be an interesting story to listen to, you know? And so just thinking about that as well, different ways that you can play with one sound to create this kind of higher level interest is a way that you can prevent yourself from diving into, just overproduction, really. Okay, so going into the next section. All right, so we're going back. We're going back to the breakbeat. Let's get this breakbeat over here. Now this synth continues. Okay, we've got the mid bass here. We'll just put a nice HP on these guys. And drums are not there. Some shakers maybe that's in the breakbeat, although the shakers right there seem a little bit dry. So I'm just going to do shakers, or I'll just even do more general than that. Tops ? Because it's not a big deal. If you felt like you needed tops, you could put tops there. If you feel like you don't need tops there, you don't need tops there. Not the end of the world either way. Not make or break either way, I should say. But we definitely don't have the hat lift. We definitely have the breakbeat. We have that synth, and that's all we got. So what we're waiting for now is like, when does that vocal come back, basically? But let's check off the boxes in hook drop 1. So over here, we have A section, B section, absolutely. So there's different ways that, again, you can high-level organize the A section, B section. In this case, what happened? Well, here he has groove, and here he has hook. That's basically what happened. So we can kind of like delete this one. We can go like that. And so this is just going to be synth layer over bass. Synth layer over bass. There you go. So, cool. Don't need this. This is all micro production. A/B edit. We do have an A/B edit. So an A/B edit is an edit that exists between the A section and B section. It's a really important moment because edits just prepare the listener for change. And again, an edit is just when you remove the low end in some way and just kind of prepare, again, the listener for change, just reset into the next section. And we can hear what's going on right there. It's a little bit dramatic because it all closes on a clap, which is really cool.
I need a fix.
And there you go. That's your A/B edit right there. I need a fix. Ha! Okay. Punk's Edis Ear Candy. Again, this is the micro production that is not needed in this track. So there's not really anything there. Entry, false start, strip. Nope. This is all tactical. Again, he's just being very principled, or they're being very principled with the production. And so high level, did we get a hook over a groove? Yes, because we have the bass and then we have the synth layer. Plus, in the first half, there's little vocals on the at the 4 bar, the 8 bar, and then down here at the end. All right, cool. So let's go over to the main break and build and see what we need to do. In the main break and build, we take away what they want, which is hooks over groove. We separate those two in some way, usually by doing something to the groove to lower the state of energy over time. The hooks over groove is the drug that they are addicted to at this point. They want the vocal fix, like I mentioned earlier. They also want the bass. Those are the two things. And now they also want the sound of the synth. But what we do is we separate all those kind of pieces in the main break and build in some way. And then you start to kind of ease back into it. You start to tease that, hey, listener, we're going back into the drop that you really liked. That thing you liked over here, yeah, we're going to do that again over here. And it's going to be awesome. But what we're going to do is we're going to leverage your addiction. All right. So here you got addicted. Now you don't have what you want. So we're going to tease it back. We're going to make a promise to you. Say, hey, I'm going to give it back to you, but I'm going to make you wait for it. And I'm going to use all these tension building elements to just double down on that lower level tension that I just want it. I just want the fix, right? The track is just perfectly set up to describe the psychology of arrangement, is getting that fix. And right here, when you're in the drop, they're getting the fix. Here, they're not. And then as soon as you switch to the build, you double down on that tension, that craving of wanting that fix again. And it's just like, hey, we're going to get it. You're going to get it. You're going to get it. You're going to get it. And then I need a fix. And then boom, you get it.
I need a fix.
Right? Like that, I need a fix. That single line right there is basically the psychology of arrangement. And the track itself is leveraging that psychology. And so it's pretty cool. Again, meta. But it probably, I would want to say it's not deliberate. There's probably some level of intentionality there. There's probably some level of awareness there in terms of the lyrics and production. But all right, let's keep going.
I need a fix. I need a fix.
Okay, so now we're getting both of these. All right, so now you can start to hear that the saw wave is creeping up also. But the saw wave is not playing the 16th down in the bottom. That one's playing, well, at least it wasn't before. It might now, but let's just get this guy in here as well. And let's also go back over here. So what do we need? We obviously need to transition from the drop into the break. So how do you do that, right? There's kind of three ways. You can high pass into it. You can go to a strip. A strip would just be full kick, full bass, and some kind of hook on top. Another is a cliff dive. A cliff dive is where you just go into basically nothing. You can go into an atmosphere and a hook, but the groove is completely gone. So here you can kind of treat it as a high pass because the bass is still going, but it's high passed. And there's also now a breakbeat. A breakbeat doesn't have the full low end. It's not the original drums from the track, but it's still drums. And so I would consider this to be just a high pass transition. All right, now that is also a step down, which is brings us into the most important thing for the main break and build, which is the V taper. It's a down energy and then it's an up energy. Is we're settling the energy out of the drop because this is just peak tension, or not tension, but peak energy, and then we step down, and then we somewhere along the line start building that tension back up. So the direction is down and then up in some way. It could be symmetrical, so down energy and then a turning point, and then we have up energy. But let's see how this kind of plays out. But the most important thing is that V taper, down then up. So lowest to highest, down energy. There's going to be some kind of turning point that definitively moves you back towards building tension or going up. Basement would just be the lowest level. So we'll check all these up energy. These are all kind of saying the same thing. But let's check to see how this plays out, which is that down and then up. So here we go.
I need a fix. I need a fix.
Okay, and then the synth 2, the warm synth, goes away, and now the saw synth takes over. All right, but
I need a fix.
you can feel that fall right there. That fall right there is a signal of sorts. And for me, that would be the turning point, right? Is we're cutting that thing. We step down. So when a turning point is some kind of, where you do switch from low energy to high energy. But even if we zoom out on the idea of turning point, it's just some kind of commitment to the up direction. And so you can step up, you can make a step up or step down. So for example, if he cut out the breakbeat, or they cut out the breakbeat drums also, that would be a step down. but it's still a commitment to eventually going up, because we're going to get some things that start to pull us in that direction. But here, that kind of warmer pluck synth going away, that's a step down over here, and we're going to immediately start to feel some kind of tension elements that pull us into the next drop. So let's check it out. So even the opening of that kind of saw here is doing it. So here we also have the breakbeat.
I need a fix.
Ah, cool. So this is cool. So remember, before we were talking about how tension is rep, roll, rise, grow. That's like the tension menu. You could do a hook repetition, which would be I need a fix. You could do roll, snare roll, kick roll, crash roll, rise. So tonal riser, white noise riser going up, synth cutoff going up, and then grow, growing the space through reverb and delay. This right here is a hook repetition. And this is a cool example because, and maybe I'll just kind of keep track of this over here real quick up at the top, just to kind of look at the end. This is going to be synth rep in main build. So this is kind of unique, because a lot of times you'd have like a vocal rep. Like imagine they go, I need, and in a very obvious way, that would be a vocal repetition. But this is repping the synth. That's cool. That's unique, but it still is a hook repetition. So if we come down over here and we look at the up energy right here, they're doing a rep, and which is the, I'm going to put this all in caps. So we're going to do synth rep, which is really cool. So let's just kind of push that out. Same with this. That's unique. That's for me, that's a unique takeaway, right? Like the thing about the cheat sheet is we can see how the main boxes of a track over time are just kind of checked off. But what I'm always on the lookout for myself is like, what are the cool ways of doing this stuff? And this is a cool way of doing it. This is unique. So here you can hear that kind of down sweep right there. Okay, and we don't get that clap on, but you still hear that kind of delay on the vocal. Okay, where's those lasers? Let's get those lasers back over here. So we're having another piepo transition.
I need a fix.
There you go. Do you see? Do you hear? Do you feel the fix you get from that moment? All right. Again, this track is like perfectly descriptive in one simple sentence of arrangement psychology. I need a fix. So over here, you teach them what the fix is. Here, you leverage their craving of that fix. There, you give it to them again. Now, over here in HG2, what do? We're going to try to elevate it a little bit, but let's look at the main break and build. Did we have the V taper? Absolutely. Step down, and then we just started kind of building up. There's that little commitment moment, that turning point where that pluck synth goes away, then the saw just kind of builds up, and then we get into the last 8 bars. We double down on tension. We've got the synth repetition. We've got a little bit of a hook repetition, a little bit subtle there. But things just kind of grow. We also getting rising from the synth opening up. And then we got that piepo transition right here. Again, the interrupt part of pattern interrupt on piepo is a little bit blurry, but that's cool. We're still getting the massive payoff with the I need a fix and then explode into the drop. So elevation over break 1 is main break and build. Is it more dramatic in some way than what came before? Absolutely, right? Even if we play right here. You can hear those low end in there. No low end, but here we got this nice kind of beefy bottom to it. Also, that hook repetition is an elevation because it builds more tension than what came before. There's also this kind of clap fill here that kind of bridges that gap to the payoff. Here, there's no clap fill, meaning that we're just going to be sitting in suspense.
I need a fix.
All right. So for all those reasons, we have that elevation. No payoff extension, meaning that the drop is landing on time. We're not doing any kind of silly extension on 2 bars or 4 bars, which is a tactical thing more for self-indulgence than just freaking hitting them with the drop on time. All right. So no deliver on time. There's no payoff extension. So in hook drop 2, the whole point, this is what it's all about. This is the punchline of the track. We introduced the groove in the bass drop. We introduced the hooks in break 1. Brought them together in hook drop 1, gave the listener what they wanted. They got hooked, right? Even right here, this language was written, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, got them hooked. So this track right here is just almost it just taps in exactly to what's going on. And then we took the hooks over groove away in the main break and build. We just saw that, which made them cry. They want it back. They want it back, right? So we doubled down on that tension. We made them wait for it. Finally, at the peak of the tension, we give them what they want again in HD2. We gave them the fix. There we go. And so what do we need? We need hooks over groove. Always, 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 always. That's it. That's the fix right there. So right here, hook drop 1 equals hook drop 2 plus or minus. So a lot of producers just want to reinvent the wheel and just almost write an entirely new song over here. But that would be not understanding the storytelling of production, right? The story of production is give them what they want, take it away, give it back to them. Give them what they want, take it away, give it back to them. When producers do something different over here, it's fundamentally a bait and switch. It's like, here, I'm going to give you this thing that you want. Oh, wait, never mind. I'm going to give you something else, right? All that tension that was built up right here was ultimately wasted, And so here we want to give them basically the same thing that they got before, but we can elevate it, all right? And that's important. So here we are going to get HD1 equals HD2 in some way. This is going to be front-loaded. We'll talk about that. A section, B section. This is micro production. That's not needed. All right, let's just get into it. So are we going to get the thing that we want? Are we going to get the fix? Let's check it out.
I need a fix. I need a fix.
So same thing right here, right? So no development in the drums. This is just literally going back to what happened before. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We're getting what we want.
I need a fix.
Same thing. Exact same filter movement. The first half is a little bit more prominent on the I need rep, and then it steps down in the filter. Perfect.
I need a fix.
Ooh, there you go. That is front loading. Front loading is where you take the elements from hook drop 1 and you start to bring them earlier into the drop because you're front loading the excitement. You're front loading the energy. You're making things exciting over here. When you're early in the story, you want the characters to get introduced a little bit more slowly. But now that they already know the characters, they don't need to wait anymore. They get it, Bring that shit in early, Get that freaking that excitement higher earlier, and that's exactly what's going on here. So you can even see, again, front-loading, technique, concept being executed perfectly here. So there we go. Let's see what else is going on. My question is this structure going to remain here? Are we not going to get a P4 or a vocal at the halfway point, or are we going to get one at the end? Let's see.
I need a fix.
Okay, interesting. So definitely a creative A-B edit here where the vocal comes in early, we get a little bit of gap, and then we get this kind of lone clap again. All right, look at that.
I need a fix.
And then we get the nice little saw wave right here as a false start. So right here, if I come down right here, they're doing the false start. False start in the drop is where it's a tactical move right there, where you just don't give them everything, right? You just kind of break down to that synth. So here we have the drums. Let's get rid of this hat right here. And then they have the LP up with res. I'm going to put res on there too, because you can hear the resonance on that filter coming up. But this is a false start. I'll just go ahead and map this yellow as like an exciting moment type of thing. But the cool thing here is that it's, oh man, the spacing. This, again, there's so many things about this track that remind me of the previous breakdown, because in the previous breakdown, in Ice in My Eyes, they spaced the hook in the bass drop before they kind of played the full hook in its natural rhythm in the bass in the first break. But here we're getting a spacing of the hook. We're not getting the full thing, just a hit, and then it's coming together right here. So you get this spacing right there. And so that's really cool. That's just a really easy way to kind of just tease something before it comes in its kind of normal presentation right here. And then there you go, your little outro vocal. Now, the outro of this track is long, but it breaks down in a logical way. So this is just going to be outro full bass for 16. And then just outro sub. My bad. Now, this is going to be full bass, like hat cut. So hat cut. So we can just kind of bring this stuff over here. Let's go like this. Duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. And then we'll just bring this over. So hat cut. And then we're going back to, and this is just going to be mid bass cut, just sub. There we go. Cool. So just breaking things down as you do in the outro. We'll just bring this back over here because this is going to be the 8th note version of the bass line, which is what they break down to. And there we go. So we got the outro, but let's come back over to the hook drop too. And so we got the AB edit. We just saw that. That was just this kind of interesting change up a little bit from what happened before. Okay, that nice little edit. Then we got that kind of saw wave coming in here. Really cool. This is a very dramatic AB edit. I'll put this all in caps. This one's really cool. Okay, so none of that. Elevation over HD1, absolutely. Even the front loading right there, plus that more dramatic AB edit, those are elevations. They're way that HD2 is more dramatic than what came before in HD1, hook drop 1. Okay, and then going into the outro is just breaking it down. It's just subtractive, right? Again, intros and outros are for DJs, not producers. And there we are. That is the whole arrangement. Again, just HD2 formula, and just to run over some of those kind of cool things. Probably the coolest high-level thing is that the lyrics equals arrangement psychology. I mean, this is just really cool. Just the idea of the fix, the one thing, is what explains everything here. Is like, if we just look at the map, here, just introduce the beats. Here we introduce the bass line. Even introducing the bass line in this track is the hook, that rhythm, that kind of downward melody, like the Shiva soundtrack or like Fisher's Stop It. Like that's kind of a hook, but we're just introducing the groove character, introducing the hook character, that vocal plus the synth over here. By the time we're right here, we've introduced everything that's basically to come. And then when we get into that first drop, that's when everything kind of comes together and we give them that first kind of fix. We give them what they want. And then through the main break and build, separate that, create the craving, leverage that through just building tension, building off of the tension that's created through craving it. And then once again, giving them the fix. It's right there in the lyrics,
I need a fix.
Super cool. And so right there. Other kind of cool things I wrote down was just that synth rep in the build. I just thought that was super cool because usually you get that vocal again, but this one you get that synth. So that's a takeaway for me, just kind of playing around with that idea. that you could just think of that as call, right? And a call response. And then in the drop, you get the response. So you get the fix line, you get the response finally to the call that was playing right here. And so
I need a fix.
there's just so many resolutions going on right there. It's really cool. It's so simple, but everything is having a purpose or intention right there. And so that brings me to the last kind of two things, which is ultimately going to always be the takeaway from these videos, because the top tracks are just very principled, and that's what EOP stands for, execution of principles. You got big hook, big groove, simple story. Simple story, of course, that's what this video is all about, just breaking down the HC2 formula and one instance of it in this track. And then CEOP, creative execution of principle. Take the creative risk. All right. But if you're working, for example, in an HC2 formula or HC3, that's another one that it might come up sometimes, but mostly just those two big drops in HC2. But take the creative risk. If you're already kind of working with this kind of mindset, you're already kind of coloring inside the lines. And so you could just be, take a creative risk inside there. It's kind of fun, And then at the same time, if you want to know what you could do or just ways that you can kind of stretch, push, pull, bend, just look at what references are doing according to these concepts, exactly like what I'm doing in this video. I'm just creating this just endless stream of examples that I can pull from instantly when I'm making on my own tracks or when I'm working with other producers. But that's it. That's all I got for this video. Awesome track. Highly recommend it as a reference. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below. You can download the cheat sheet plus the MIDI map, and I'll see you in the next breakdown. All right, peace.